Oh, and welcome back to Songs of Six. Welcome back. Finally, the end of the city revamp, and on to the actual forward progression for our city. I have finally finished all of the work that needed to be done. Primarily, there is a tad bit more on the Mevia Beach over here that needs to be done. But for the most part, all of the city revamp has been achieved, and I often think to myself, like, well, who the hell cares, man? Who the heck cares? I care, and the people who watch these videos likely care. So here we are, we're gonna go over the final parts of the city revamp. We'll start with the most obvious, the best part that I've got going. And this is by no means the final build. Don't think that this is the final form of the fortress, or what do you want to call it, throne room. I still have to fill this out with grand stone floors, give them some more housing. We've got an embassy here. We've got a vassal now, Instria, which was the guy that I was trying to bully, and I felt bad, so I basically turned him into my vassal. So I protect him, yeah, and he pays me for it. And it works out, you know. And we're currently retraining our troops because we lost a bunch of them due to no fault of my own, other than the fact that rations got short for a moment, and then they started to starve to death, and then therefore I lost my entire army of extremely well-trained Talapi archers. Really stunk. But I went and I spent tons of time getting all of this cut stone and everything. The only thing we're short on is these two resources and a little bit of this stuff here, but for the most part, everything else is just really high. I've been selling Sithalon. I've been doing things like that to get money, to get things that I want. And you can see we've got some human houses in here. We also need some room for the Talapis. You can see there's some Talapis working in here. That's kind of how I go about it. So I'll go and I'll see, like, okay, there's maybe 20 of each living in here. And I can get away with maybe some Cretonians here, and some Talapis here, and then some Amevians over here. I'm not too opposed to giving this area to housing, and that's kind of how I've been doing it. You can see this is all housing. As a matter of fact, looks like the Amevians have the worst housing out of them all. I don't know why, but it's probably due to the fact that I've just been so concerned about other stuff, and the Amevians, if you look at them, they're very happy. Even though there's 60 of them who are homeless, they're extremely happy. So yeah, I'm not too concerned with them. We do have to go over this area though and refix it, like I said, so I'm not even going to actually work on the floors of the roads or anything. But we'll start from here. I went and I put this nice big old lavatory. This should support this whole zone for quite some time. And there's no one who lives over here except for the people who work at the temple and the people going to the temple. So we're going to start to put more people here. And the way I'm going to do this is basically, we have our military supporting all of these people who are going to be training. They're mostly going to be living here, supporting this area. So we'll have a lot of them probably going to universities. We'll build like a university, I think, in here. As the university doesn't require any upkeep in any shape or form, I think the university would be a good put in here, so that the humans, I mean, who aren't doing jobs can go and actually learn something, and then they'll get transferred over to this area, which is already been shown in the last episode, but I've adjusted a little bit more, put some more speakers in. I still have to decorate it. The decorations are the last of my concern, because buildings are very important to me, and if I go in here and I look at my environment, I'm still below 50% on awe, so there's no reason in getting the Cantors until I know my pops is going to be at like 10,000 or whatever. I'm actually going for the title. I'd like to get the Asta Invicta, which is 12,000. We're well on our way to Asta. We could definitely get Asta Invicta. I had to turn the Cretonians reproduction down though, because they were just going ham. They were going crazy. I'd rather have more Talapis, more Dundarians, and more humans than anything else. Garthimi and Mevians and all these other guys are cool. Mevians are actually really useful, and I think that the next step is to try to get... We really ideally want to have like 2,000 Mevians, and they're gonna live over here. They're gonna upkeep this whole area. What the heck? Oh, it's all of our... Look at that line of odd jobbers, 700 odd jobbers. Oh, very well clothed, and they honestly can't, they've got nothing to be worried about in the city. It's really, really nice for them. And someone was commenting in the last one that it's nice that in games like this you can just go balls to the wall, making everything nice. And he's saying that you could put flowers everywhere, and I usually do. And like I said, I would be doing that. But my main concern was getting the buildings out of the way. Did I actually even set that? They naturally set themselves to the exact way that I want them to be. So those are going to be Talapis, and matter of fact, we'll keep this to be just Crotonians, those two. So the idea is I have a lot of housing on the side here for random houses, like these guys. These Garthimis live here, so that they're just farther away enough from these guys where they're not unhappy. I think that the closer they are in proximation to another person's door, front door, they get butthurt, and then they get into brawls. And so far my theory seems to be correct, because I haven't had many brawl deaths. I've also put a little bit more of a hospital in this area, so a little baby hospital in here. So anyone who gets their ass beat up can go to the hospital and get fixed up before they bleed to death. That was the problem. They were actually bleeding to death before they got fixed by a hospital because they had to go too far. Hilarious. Strange. I know. I guess the Garthimis are curb stomping people and then getting their asses handed to them or something. I don't know. It's gang violence, and you can't really stop gang violence or criminality. But I did look at this, and if you hover over your law, we actually have a trait there that says tolerant. Our species has a 0.15. Our population size 3.73, and then you can see other things like enemy kills. That seems to create more crime, so it's 1.0. Ex-convicts, so 0.98. I think that the fact that some of our people are actually ex-cons makes them more likely to commit crimes. So, for example, if you were to execute every single person who committed a crime, you more than likely would have less... or you obviously would have no reconviction rate because everyone's dead. But that would bring you up to the, like, not tolerant stance, which would likely maybe affect your trait tolerant to a point that's not so good. I don't know specifically, because obviously you can't really go into this menu other than just hovering over it. But if I could dig into that, I would, and I will try to find out more about that so that I can figure out what the other traits are and kind of what they do. So, like, if it's a 0.05 for the tolerant trait, would intolerant give you a negative 0.1, or, you know what I mean, something like that's pretty decently bad, or is it just negligible at that rate? Because killing people in the arena and stuff like that gives them a happiness boost anyways, and executing people in the stands or the scaffolds is just the same, so not a big deal considering they actually like to see people killed. You can see there's tight spaces over here. We've just got so many people packed in this little corner here, and honestly, it's okay. I'm fine with that, because at a certain point we're gonna wrap the city up and we're gonna move on to a new city, and I'm not gonna sit here and dilly-dally about all the little tiny nuances of, oh, okay, this area has 10,000 people, or not 10,000, but like a 1,000, 2,000 people, and I'm gonna accord it. I know there are people who do that. I really just don't have that time or the facilities to actually go through with saying like, oh, okay, this is what I need. So instead, I'm gonna do things like this, where I'm mashing services. Like, there's 2 stages here, and if that's not enough for these guys, then too bad. That's where it's gonna sit at, and the services for this area will be at this rate. But other areas will take that into account, and like this area, I'm going to try to make it better. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more open, and maybe then we can start to spread these guys out. Maybe we can move the retirement zone out of the way. Who knows? But I'm just glad that we finally got the final throne room here moved. We'll have to move this obviously over. And to do that, I had to finish the mason. I don't remember if I had the mason done in the last video, but I think I had, yeah, I think I had just started finishing it. And we had gotten this set up in this as well. Then I went on and built the potter, which is I'd say a complementary building to the mason and the carpenter. They're basically in that same vein of things that you want to have. Those three items are really useful, as well as the fabric. Obviously iron. I sold a lot of our iron. I sold like half of our iron. So we got back up to like 60,000 iron. I sold it all so that we could purchase or pay for our vassalship. And the way that's working over here is we've still got the smelter just like it was. We've got a mechanic, a little smithy, and a jeweler in between. Just to suffice our resources for now, I do need to expand them, especially the smithy. Ideally, you want to have like 10,000 tools stored away for extra stuff that you need, new jobs, whatever it might be. And you can see we've got a new variant of that warehouse I had before, which was very large, and it was right here, but it's a little bit smaller, still just as good. And their job is to fetch all of the metal from here. These guys, they grab the metal from here, and these guys, their specific job is to pull it from here. Keeping this area supplied with metal is important, because then as the overflow happens, other warehouses will start to grab from other warehouses. That's kind of how I've seen this happen, at least. So like these guys start to fill up. Once it's overflowing with iron or metal, the next guy down the road is like, okay, I'm gonna grab some, and he starts to fill up, and then he's got a full storage of 65 iron. And then the next guy, you keep going down the road. Obviously, none of these have that, but like if I keep looking for one, we haven't filled this area out, but like once you get another janitor in here, janitors are really the guys that are doing it. Janitors are great. Think of a janitor as a warehouse too. They should honestly have the warehouse built in. I think that Jake should consider putting the warehouse connected to a janitor as well, so that when you build the janitor, he has a actual crate or a couple crates inside of him, or inside of it, to designate storage. It wouldn't be too difficult, and I think it would be smart, just because it's the same building concept. You could even remove this wall and just call it one building, but just the way it works right now, they're not the same, and you need to put them next to each other, because this guy, this janitor, there's 10 or 15 or whatever. They will spend all day looking for resources if you do not have a warehouse right next to them or nearby for that overflow. And you can see some of them have like things like paper, which I accidentally copied the Amevians variant on the this building. So sometimes with the extra storage space, I will put things like fruits and things like that. And due to that, a lot of them are just sitting with extra fruit, or in this case, scrolls, which I really don't want, or paper. I think they should be called scrolls, but they aren't. I went and also put in this big restaurant across from the two admin buildings, because I wanted this area to have a good amount of services for food. And if you look, I think it's pretty good. We've got 3.3k or 3.03k, and then we also have 480 available meals possible, as well as there's 300 that are made. They are constantly making meals, putting them out for people. People come, they grab them, and they sit down, they take a meal, and they eat that up, and then they go back to work. So it's a quicker way, and it's a more effective way to feed your people. And that's kind of why I put them in here. So these guys have food over here, and we also have this right here, allowing for a really good maximum amount of services in this area for that variety, at least. And you can see we have tucked in a bunch of different houses for Garthemis. A lot of this episode had to do with getting housing situated. I wanted my pops to be under 100 for homelessness, and they've been that way for a while. Obviously, the Mevians are the highest, but right now we're building their houses on the other side of the city. We went and put a bunch of Mevian houses in here, and you can see the way I split them is via a janitor and a little warehouse, and we have a pool here. And then you've got this road, you've got humans, and then you've got Kryptonians, and then you've got your Dundarians. So there is a separation here. The Amevians dislike pretty much everyone, so I've just got them separated, but they don't seem to brawl as much. I don't know if that's because of their specific race traits or anything to do with that, or it's just specifically because they're so happy, there's no reason to brawl. Maybe the Garthimes are unhappy with their lives. If I look, that yeah, sometimes their happiness does dip based off of religion or law or work, I guess. So maybe that's it. I have no clue. I really do want to dig into the... I'm going to start messaging people in the 6 Discord to see what causes specific brawls. If it's just their housing, then that's easy to deal with. But if it's other things like their happiness level, stuff like that. Also, I love that houses do exactly what I want them to do without me having to tell them, because it's almost like the game knows too where to put them. And we should also upgrade these houses. So the thing I've got going here is a kind of balanced flow of housing, in between services, and then a valuable thing like a religious building or something along those lines. You can see we've got a new massage parlor upgrade over here. Like I said, I wanted to upgrade this building. And we've got 2 on the street alone, which should keep them happy for now. And we went and upgraded more houses for this area, actually. Let's make sure they're all maxed out upgrade so that the Garthimes have plenty of housing. They live in clusters, and that's how I'm going to have them live for the rest of their days. And they're not going to have their custom floor because, to be honest, I don't care about Garthimes. They suck, and their only purpose... people are going to get really butthurt by this. Controversial Songs of 6 opinions. The Garthimi are trash, and they need to be taken out like the trash that they are. No, I'm just kidding. They are useful for what their purpose is. Early game, Garthimi, Cretonian, and Talapi are really, really powerful. But late game, Amevia, Dondarian, and the humans are the champions. They're the best characters you're going to have across the board. I went and kept this little area here too. I actually really liked this plaza. I think that this plaza is suffice for what needs to be done in this area. You can see it's got really good services for all of the wells except for that one on that end there. And then we've got the 2 big stages. We've got the 2 speakers. We could probably do with 2 more or a couple more in this area. I'll probably put some in here. Like I said, this isn't done. I have to decorate it. I've got to put more houses. I'd like to fill it out. It's not going to have any military function other than the stairs. You can see they could technically get up here and protect themselves. But the idea is, like, if they were to get into a battle in this sense, it would be the worst case scenario. The problem currently with sieges is that when you have a siege, they take about 4.5 years to get their gear on, and by that point, they're starving to death. And then you have to be like, okay, disband them, so they go eat. And when they disband and go grab their food, by the time they do that, they're already, like, laying on the ground dying. And it sounds like I'm being dramatic, but I'm actually not. I'm being as, like, real and as kind as I can, but the siege engine in this game is just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Because it really should be, like, a little bit more forgiving, especially when the game is trying to kind of go for that feel. I feel like it wants you to do that stuff. It gives you the intention to build walls and catapults and all these things, and then if you were to utilize your actual world army in a different way, like, they pull out of the garrison perfectly fine when you fight with them on the world map. That's fine. But when you have to use them here, if you had your archers lined up on this wall waiting for the enemy to come, unless you had, like, bread and services dedicated to this area right here, and then you unformed them, had them go back, and then had their gear just sitting there, they'd have to go quickly grab that back and put it back on. That's not to account the fact that they also have to poop, they have to freaking, you know what I mean, they have to clean themselves, they get tired. They have a lot of services and needs that don't get covered while they're in a formation. And I think that, honestly, if I was in this situation, I would just turn that off. I think that when they enter a military state, they should just not have the need. It might be a gimmicky thing. I think people might abuse that, but I have tried. I have done a couple muster drills, and it just took so long even to get them to form up because they were getting stuck on, like, a corner. And by the end of, like, the day, they're starving. And it takes a long time. So maybe even the characters, they go and pick up rations, and they carry rations around with them on their character so that they don't starve to death as a necessity. I have no clue. But that is just one of the main issues, and that's why you probably won't see a siege battle unless it's set up via like a workshop, not workshop, but like a dev mode type setup there. Let's also set these guys to this housing. But with all that being said, I am just blabbing on because, to be honest, there is nothing to go over more than what I said. We've done all of the work. We've done everything necessary to get us going into the final stages of this series. Hopefully we can get it done before 20. I'm not doing it for number, like series numbers or anything like that, but mostly I'd like to see this end on a flat number because my weird OCD. Just like this city, I always have to end things on like a point or a number or a square. I want to end it on 20 or 15 or whatever. I could never end it on 17 or 19. And I have ended series in the past on that, and I feel like it pisses people off. And I always break the fourth wall in this regard too. They get butthurt too. But to be quite frank, sometimes you just can't do it anymore, and you don't want to. I don't want to push out content that isn't good or valuable to me, at least. So that has been my main intention from the get-go, and kind of why I always support other people, depending on how much effort, or even if they don't put too much effort. I like to see people get their start somewhere and they get going into it, because everyone should have a little fun with this kind of stuff. I don't think it should be specifically just YouTubers. And I was thinking about that. I hope people don't get that impression that now that I've hit like 1,500 or something, I've changed in any shape or form. I'm still that stinky old little fiend that nothing has changed in any way or shape or form in my life. Not that I have noticed, at least. If I look around, it looks about the goddamn same. So, hopefully one day, though. I don't know if people get that impression, but it definitely takes years and years of grind to get anywhere near your dreams on this kind of platform. And that's never been my goal to hit those big heights, but rather just make a good living. Because it's kind of like a radio job or anything else. Like back in the day, you used to just... people used to be able to sit there and play other people's music. For me, it's more interesting to play you guys video games and show you guys some of the new stuff that comes out. Oops, let's not do that. One of the worst things too is that if a building has stone wall tucked in there like that, and then you try to upgrade it, they'll do the outskirts of it. They won't do all of it. It kind of leaves you this ugly little inside bit. So what I'll probably do is go like this and return that all to stone, just so it looks normal. Also looks like we didn't manage to get this corner here. I just dragged the upgrade tool across the entire area for the grand stone when I got enough of it, and I just upgraded everything. But even with that, our cantors were just butthurt and left. So they are very challenging when you're growing as a city. If your population is sitting at a point, you're fine. But our population is constantly growing. We have, at any point, 50 plus babies in all of these different buildings. It looks like 50, 50, 50, 12, and then this one's 80 and 8 and 4. Oh, sorry, 8 and 40. So that is pretty good. But regardless, we've still got so much more to do in this series, and I appreciate everyone who's stuck it out from the beginning. Or if you're new, or whoever, you're all great to me, and I love every one of you. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.